Well, it's President's Day, which means it's that time of year when everyone comes out of the woodwork to opine on the greatest executives this country has ever known. And there's really two groups at play in this business. First, the slaves of the moment who will all bark about how the current president belongs on this list.
Chocolate chip.
Okay, maybe nobody's going to say that about the current president, but they will say it about the last one.
He died like a dog.
Or the one before him.
Israel is a strong friend of Israel's.
And it's all silly. Not enough time has passed to gauge any recent president's true effectiveness and leadership. So consequently, you'll be inclined to listen to group number two. Those are the historians and the experts who, because they know a bunch of facts from history, will concoct these lists and tell you that they know who was best. But I'd say that you'd be best to ignore their lists because they're trash. For instance, here was one that just came out recently from a list of so-called presidential scholars. 1, Abraham Lincoln. 2, George Washington. Okay, we're done here. What an utter disgrace. Any list that begins with anyone other than George Washington in the top spot, it deserves to be shredded, burned, its ashes spit upon, then collected and placed in a space capsule and fired into the center of the sun. Without Washington, there is no country and thus no presidency. What, Lincoln saved the Union?
What's the big deal?
There would have been no Union to save without Washington. So just stop embarrassing yourself, put the father of the country where he belongs, and admit that the gap between him at 1 and whoever it is at number 2, that gap is greater than the collective gaps between all of the others. And of course, that list goes on to name all of the other usual suspects. The Roosevelts, Eisenhower, JFK, for crying out loud. How about this President's Day? We remember the unsung heroes of the White House, shall we? James K. Polk. Dude goes into office, expands the country from sea to shining sea, gets everything done in 4 years that he wanted to do, and he's out. Calvin Coolidge. Try Roaring '20s. Unprecedented prosperity. The guy never talked. Can you imagine that from a politician today? One reporter said they could get him to say more than 2 words. He looked at him, said, "You lose," and walked off. Legend. Guy said his greatest accomplishment was minding my own business. Put this man on Rushmore. Taft. Bathtub. That kind of humiliation deserves some recognition. Millard Fillmore. Most mediocre man in all of human history. Didn't do anything. In fact, for years there was a Millard Fillmore Society that gave out yearly awards to the country's most inconsequential politician. But you know, when you don't do anything, you don't wreck anybody's life either. I can respect it. William Henry Harrison. The prototypical man's man. Hey, Bill, it's going to be rainy and really cold on Inauguration Day. Why don't you move inside? They said. Nah, not only am I doing this thing outside,
I'll write it and we'll do it live.
I'm doing it without a coat, and I'm going to give the longest speech in history. Buckle up, boys. Dude dies 30 days later.
Bummer.
So you can keep your bomb-dropping Trumans and your declaration-writing Jeffersons. This President's Day is for all the dudes that you went to school 16 years and never even knew that they existed.